Dr. Ilara Velthani clutched the emergency transmitter with her 6 delicate fingers, watching helplessly as another seismic tremor shook the research station on Kepler 186 FR. Through the reinforced viewing ports, she could see the planet's surface cracking like an eggshell as massive geological upheavals threatened to tear the world apart. "The core destabilization is accelerating," reported her assistant Jorik, his normally calm demeanor cracking under the strain. "At current rates, we have perhaps 72 standard hours before total planetary collapse." Ilara's species, the Lyrian Collective, were renowned throughout the galaxy for their scientific achievements and peaceful nature. They had established this research outpost to study the unique crystalline formations that grew naturally on Kepler 186 F, never imagining that their mining operations might trigger a chain reaction that would threaten the planet's very existence. "Any response to our evacuation requests?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "The Confederation fleet is 3 weeks away at best," Jorik replied with evident despair. "The nearest commercial transport consortium says they don't have ships rated for emergency evacuation in unstable gravity wells." Ilara closed her eyes, calculating rapidly. 12,000 Lyrian researchers and their families spread across 17 research stations on a dying planet, with no realistic hope of rescue from their own people or the galactic community. "Wait," Jorik said suddenly, his tone shifting to confusion. "I'm receiving a response to our general distress beacon. It's from the Sol system." "Humans?" Ilara's feathers ruffled with surprise. The Deathwelders had been making a name for themselves across the galaxy in recent years, but she had never expected them to monitor communications this far from their territory. The transmission crackled to life, with a voice speaking heavily accented but clear galactic standard. "Lyrian research stations. This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Terran Humanitarian Fleet. We've received your distress call regarding planetary evacuation. What's your situation?" Ilara activated the transmitter with trembling hands. "Admiral Rodriguez, this is Dr. Velthani, Chief Researcher on Kepler 186 F. We have approximately 12,000 civilians trapped on a planet experiencing catastrophic core destabilization. We need emergency evacuation, but our own fleet can't reach us in time." "Copy that, Doctor. How long until total collapse?" "Perhaps 70 hours, Admiral, but the surface instability is making landing operations increasingly dangerous." A brief pause. "Understood. Terran Evacuation Protocol 7 is now in effect. We'll have ships on station within 48 hours. Ilara felt a surge of gratitude mixed with concern. "Admiral, we deeply appreciate your assistance, but I should warn you, this is a massive operation. 12,000 evacuees across multiple sites with extremely hazardous landing conditions. Perhaps you should coordinate with the Confederation fleet for additional support." She could hear what sounded suspiciously like laughter in Admiral Rodriguez's response. "Doctor, this is what we do. Terran evacuation fleet is inbound." Rodriguez out. 47 hours later, Ilara stood on the observation deck of Research Station Alpha and watched space itself seem to tear open as the human fleet arrived. What emerged from hyperspace defied her every expectation of what a humanitarian mission should look like. The lead ship alone was larger than most Confederation dreadnoughts, a massive vessel that seemed to be part troop transport, part mobile city, and part industrial complex. Behind it came wave after wave of support ships, evacuation transports the size of small moons, engineering vessels bristling with construction equipment, medical ships that looked like floating hospitals, and escort craft that could only be described as military destroyers. "By the 7 stars," Jorik whispered, his voice filled with awe. "How many ships are there?" Ilara's scientific mind tried to process what she was seeing. "I count 237 vessels." Admiral Rodriguez, this is Dr. Velthani. That's an entire fleet. Affirmative, Doctor, came Rodriguez's calm reply. Terran doctrine states that evacuation operations require overwhelming force projection to ensure mission success. We don't do things halfway. What followed was the most precisely orchestrated operation Elara had ever witnessed. The humans didn't just evacuate the research stations, they conquered the evacuation. Massive cargo shuttles landed despite the increasingly unstable surface conditions, their pilots navigating seismic upheavals with a skill that bordered on the supernatural. Engineering teams deployed atmospheric processors to create stable landing zones in areas where the ground was literally shifting beneath their feet. Medical personnel established triage centers that could handle anything from radiation exposure to crush injuries. Supply ships set up temporary shelters that were more comfortable than the research stations themselves. Dr. Velthani, came a new voice over the communications array. This is Colonel Martinez, Ground Operations Commander. We're establishing evacuation zones at all 17 research sites simultaneously. Expected completion time is 18 hours. 18 hours? Elara could hardly believe what she was hearing. Colonel, even under ideal conditions, coordinating an evacuation of this scale would take days. Ma'am, we've got 3 Marine battalions, 2 engineering corps, and a full medical division working this operation, plus enough transport capacity to evacuate a small city. We'll have your people off this rock before dinner time. As Elara watched human Marines coordinating with Lyrian civilians, she began to understand something fundamental about the species the galaxy called Deathworlders. They didn't just respond to emergencies, they overwhelming them with such massive force and resources that failure simply wasn't an option. Admiral Rodriguez, she transmitted as another batch of evacuees, was loaded onto a transport the size of a city block. May I ask why your people commit such enormous resources to helping strangers? This operation must be costing your government millions of credits. The response came without hesitation. Doctor, where we come from, when someone needs help, you don't send just enough resources to maybe succeed. You send enough to guarantee success. Besides, and she could hear the smile in his voice, 12,000 people isn't that many. We've evacuated entire planets before. 16 hours and 43 minutes after the human fleet's arrival, the last Lyrian civilian was safely aboard a Terran evacuation vessel. As they watched Kepler 186F tear itself apart through the viewports of the human flagship, Elara realized that her people had learned something invaluable about their new neighbors. They had thought the humans would send aid, perhaps a few ships, some supplies, maybe a rescue team. Instead, they had sent an entire civilization's worth of resources, deployed with the kind of overwhelming force that turned disaster relief into a military science. The Deathworlders didn't just save people. They made being saved look easy.